Alright, ladies and gentlemen, ever since I posted my extra long news roundup video on Friday, which you should definitely check out if you haven't done so already, two things happened. One fascinating yet, as usual, controversial thing with the DCU Superman, and the other some very intriguing new details surrounding the DCU Clayface movie, which I am really looking forward to getting into and hearing your thoughts on, but also hearing your thoughts on the first story because... oh man, so yeah, speaking of, let's get into that. As many of you have probably seen by now, it's that we got a little jokey promo for Superman of James Gunn, David Corenswet, and Shaquille O'Neal, with him wanting to get into the Superman suit to learn that David Corenswet is in fact Superman for the movie. It's just a little jokey promo, and humor aside with the promo, we got an up-close look at the Superman suit. And by now, from filming to obviously the trailer, the teaser trailer itself, we've had a pretty damn good look at the suit. But here, as Shaquille O'Neal is looking at the suit, we get some like B-roll kind of macro-esque shots of the suit on the mannequin here, showing just much more detail and just an overall new look at the suit that I appreciated seeing. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, what did this lead to? Well, that is the inevitable. When this promo released over the weekend, it led to an eruption of opinions online causing contention between fans, and I just feel like this is a tale as old as time itself at this point. So most of the tweets were naturally comparing it to Henry Cavill's Superman suits, and as a result saying that David Corenswet's suit looks so cheap, it's the worst suit ever made, the suit is horrendous, and, anyone who thinks it looks good is just lying to themselves. They don't have their own subjective opinion and possible tastes, they're just lying, man. You're lying to yourself. And hey, perhaps I'm lying to myself, but when I see the suit, although I do think it could have been better lit here from the front to, show more clearly the vibrancy to just Gunn's Superman suit, as we know the colors are popping much more in this Superman movie. I do like Corenswet's suit, and I really like Snyder's Superman suit, mostly the Man of Steel iteration, by the way, but no! It's impossible to like both. It is impossible. You cannot, it's like the freaking Harry Potter thing. One cannot live while the other dies, or the other dies while the other lives thing. I don't know. Just side note here, completely butchered that, just Googled it. Neither can live while the other survives. And when I said what, one cannot live while the other dies? Anyway, it's important to remember that we all have different tastes that make you lean to one side more than the other. Just in how, you might see a car from the same manufacturer or a piece of clothing and compare it to maybe another company's version. Just be like, nah, bro, absolutely not. I prefer this design over here. But your buddy might be like, wait, really? I actually prefer this one. That is kind of where it should really begin and end, but no, things get so much more contentious in this fandom to almost like raising the banner of war at times. So, when it comes to some fans who prefer the Henry Cavill Superman suit over David Corenswet's, I just think, that's absolutely valid. Everyone has their preference and taste. But with that being said, I thought it would be a good time to maybe do a bit of a suit reevaluation with Boba. And I would love for you to get involved in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the suit with these kind of up-close looks, and my thoughts, of course. But for me, I think there is clearly two very different approaches to these suits that, in my opinion, allow for very valid takes on either side of the fence. And I think everyone can express that without having to completely tear down the other. So, for example, I really agree with this tweet from James D. Michelle here. Sorry if I butchered your name, man. But they both achieve their assignments. Henry Cavill's Superman suit is supposed to be created by an advanced alien race a million years ago ahead of us, and James Gunn's Superman evokes the Golden Age / Silver Age comic booky Superman. And honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, that's wholeheartedly true. Now, having said that, we can't disprove that, Corenswet suit wasn't also Kryptonian made, and if it was, then I guess people would argue about the Kryptonian made Man of Steel version and aesthetics to that, compared to the alien made Corenswet suit, which doesn't look so alien made. But putting that aside, I still think this is just overall true what was said by James there with approach to the suit. So Snyder did clearly go with that more really advanced, alien civilization approach to the design intricacies of the DCEU suit. That makes it something really innovative on the history of Superman suit designs up until that point. I don't think anyone could deny that. We hadn't really seen such a new take before that still boldly screamed Superman. Whereas James Gunn has gone for a much more simplistic Golden Age, Silver Age comic booky design, one that has much less detail, so it's more simplistic in its approach, yet it broadly advertises the iconic Superman suit design aspects, such as boldly highlighting the large Superman crest, the Superman trunks are highlighted, combining those different eras of Superman designs all into one really comic book accurate looking suit. Now again, there's execution, there's preference of material and stuff like that which you could add into this, but you can't deny that it does look very comic book accurate. But again, if people don't like that, then fair enough. I personally do dig it. Now, having said that, I said ages ago, before we even had the suit revealed, that I didn't really want trunks. Not that I was against them point blank, as, I do like Superman designs in the comics with trunks. But if I could have chosen, I think I would have been like, nah, just maybe don't do that. I think the overall material on the suit could have been a bit thinner, even though I do agree with what James Gunn said before with how he didn't want that wet shirt look. Now, I will say that this material is a bit too thick for my liking, and you can definitely tell that, which is what contributes to people saying maybe that's why it folds a bit more. Like if I do this, clearly I'm wearing a t-shirt under this, and this is quite a thick jumper, so look what is appearing, little folds. And, every superhero suit, including even Cavill's, does that, but Cavill's to much less of an extent. So if you really care about those tiny details, which I do not think will be as prevalent in the movie itself and in the shots they choose to present in the movie, then that is a factor that is indeed valid. But for me, somewhere in between, I think would have flattered David Corenswet's physique even more. And again, with this promo, even though we don't get it as well lit as it should have been because this suit is much more vibrant, I like the vibrancy of the suit. It just feels refreshing that Gunn has highlighted a lot of the vibrancy in the footage of the movie. I love the crest, which is something people are fairly mixed on, which I can completely understand with their, desire of wanting a more classic Superman-esque to be present. But for me, while this suit adheres to a lot of the classic comic book iterations, all combining it into kind of one product, I thought it'd be cool to adapt the symbol, which is still absolutely an S, so I don't care what anyone else says, but one that is still different enough to make it stand apart even more with that Kingdom Come S design. Now, I've always liked the collar, dare I say it, since day one, more than most people. I think it has grown on quite a few people, so maybe you can let me know if your mind has changed there. Now, the lines I've been okay with, although I've always felt like they're a bit too broad and thick around just the clavicle area, which isn't really an unpopular opinion to have, but I do still, and I will say it again, I think all the edits of people removing the lines completely on the suit, no, it doesn't make it look better for me. Now, a lot of people are saying, why the hell are the trunks or the belt, why is that so high up on his waist? Believe it or not, I think it's actually been depicted that way quite a bit with the Golden Age goof of it all. So it makes me wonder if that is an intentional aspect, but then again, I also think this is down to it maybe being on a mannequin. It's never going to be as flattering displayed on a mannequin, if you know what I mean, like especially the trunks. And I remember a lot of people saying similar things, you know, about Robert Pattinson's Batman suit on a mannequin. It just doesn't look as good as it does on Pattinson. For example, when they say, oh, look at that suit, look at the cowl on the mannequin. Oh my God, what's going on there? My opinion of the whole waist and trunk thing is such that it just comes with the territory of even adapting trunks in the first place and how much you truly gel with that in your own tastes for a Superman design. And where, again, I can understand both sides, as I've mentioned. I would have gone without trunks. However, I guess, you know, one thing to counter what we're talking about here is that I don't really remember anyone having this complaint of it being too high up on the waist when everyone was seeing David Corenswet in the suit filming on set. Sure, they may have critiqued the idea of trunks in general, but I don't remember that specific, hey, it's so high up criticism being said at the time. So maybe it is mostly a mannequin thing. Now, as for the boots and what we see here, they've always looked great to me. The cape has also been great. I mean, especially the way it rolls directly back from the shoulders. And what I mean by that is sometimes you have capes going from the side. I like how this goes straight back like this. That's really, really nice. And a big aspect of the suit, which I've liked and I've seen, you know, opinions vary quite widely on, is that I really dig how this suit doesn't need an undersuit of muscle padding. I mean, I personally, I don't know about you guys, I know it's not everyone, but I'm quite tired of seeing the more, you know, militaristic Roman ab armor look to superhero suits. Not that I dislike them outright. I need to stress that, as clearly, you know, I like comic book suits, and it's important to acknowledge that, you know, there's a lot of comic book characters on those pages from the comic books with the design of granite rock breaking muscles protruding through their suits. Like, I'm not stupid. I'm very aware that that's why they do it. But to me, what I liked about the Man of Steel suit is that it didn't focus as heavily on that as the later iterations did. Now, don't get me wrong, it still had a bit of the protruding muscles, but as Cavill went on to wear newer versions of his Superman suit, the emphasis, you know, on the chromy looking underplating that you can see him wearing right here. Like, he literally, like, people don't think that he wore that, and I'm not saying Henry Cavill wasn't ripped. My God, he was. But the reason why they did that, like, if you guys remember BVS or even the Justice League suit compared to the Man of Steel suit, when it's in any kind of light whatsoever, it has that kind of metallic-y muscle, you know, coating over his existing muscles underneath. So when a light shines on that, if I had it under here, you might even see a chromy white sheen to my bicep and my triceps. That's what that does. And they really leaned on that a lot more. And I really didn't like that compared to, again, the Man of Steel suit, which is why I'm so glad that Henry Cavill returned in that Black Adam scene in the Man of Steel suit. It's just they dialed up the saturation, which was the typical criticism. For me, again, yeah, the perfect DCEU Superman suit was the Man of Steel suit, but with more color. And even just on another note, I think sometimes the extent of that under padding is just a bit too much. Like, just a bit too much. But with Gunn's suit here, all while I completely understand that it doesn't show perhaps even enough emphasis on the muscles for a lot of people out there, I can respect that any bulk that we do see on those biceps from David Corenswet is truly a result of David Corenswet's literal biceps that's filling out the fabric. Now, I think, again, this is a good thing and a bad thing for different people, different strokes for different folks. That's the whole point of this video. I just don't think anyone can really deny that if you saw David Corenswet in real life, 6'4", standing in front of you with this Superman suit on, whether you love it or hate it, that he wouldn't be a huge guy with big muscles filling out the suit. You would see that. But if your choice, your stylistic choice and taste is to see a Herculean, like, Spartan, then I get that as well. But for me, this is refreshing. But again, another thing to mention is maybe thinner material could have made that look even better, but not quite so thin that it was a wet shirt look, so on, so forth. So, there is room for improvement here in my mind. Overall, guys, it's an iteration of a Superman suit that is not attempting to, over-design yet, while still attempting to adhere to being a modern-day Superman suit, while simultaneously drawing from older ages of comic book suit designs. But this is what it comes down to for me here. All while this suit isn't necessarily perfection for me, I don't think it looks like garbage. It's kind of mad to me that so many people comment online about how the suit seems to be as if, and I'm not even being hyperbolic here, as if it's the literal shit from the bottom of their shoe that they've stepped on. And sometimes when trying to understand it, because I really like to try and understand both perspectives or whatever perspectives are out there, I think to myself, am I actually crazy or something? Again, not second guessing myself in, liking the suit, but more in terms of, despite liking it, is there still something I'm actually truly doolalily blinded in not seeing, in that it could make me even realize why there's quite a lot of people who think that it's so incredibly, awfully bad. And it's when I meditate upon that, it's where I kind of come to the conclusion that it's just not bad. It really isn't. It's just not something that they like. And people often communicate their dislike of something on clearly a vast spectrum, and it's fueled by all kinds of other things that they may be carrying, various biases, me included, by the way, that comes into it. Because again, me here, as a Superman fan, a guy who really digs Man of Steel, the Man of Steel suit, just wanting a fairly decent, new Superman movie, and all while this new suit doesn't tick every single box, as by the way, I think that would be kind of hard to do for anyone, I can still appreciate, as a fan of Superman, what Gunn is doing here with this iteration of the suit. I don't know, guys, at this point I'm really just rambling, so I would love to know what you think, but we need to move on after that big-ass ramble about the suit to one more thing before we get to Clayface, with David Corenswet being asked about Superman and, playing the role and the pressure, it could have. And I think he gave such a kind of eloquent answer here. Playing Superman was the most challenging role of my career for its scope and physical demands, he confessed to us. Also because it is a character who is both a superhero and an ordinary man. Two sides of the same person, a dichotomy dictated by circumstances, the environment, and the secret. When asked what it was like to work on such a highly anticipated film, how he handled the pressure and how he faces the expectations of the public, the answer is that of a professional with a capital P. I focus on doing my best for the director, the crew, and my colleagues who have worked at the top of their abilities for months or years. If I do well for them, I think I've done everything possible. And that is the way, I'm so glad, he worded it like that. He could have gone into, this, even with good intentions, he could have, wobbled a bit in the way he said it. But he said it in the best way you possibly can as a person in his position. Look, I was hired. I did everything I could for the director, the crew, my colleagues, the other actors, and all of those people have worked at the top of their abilities for months, if not years. And if I do well for them, I honestly feel like I've done everything possible. And I'm going to try and carry, I'm only human, but I'm going to carry that mindset into whatever may happen upon release. Whether it does good in the box office, bad in the box office, I couldn't have done anything more. So fair play to Corenswet, and I really wish him the best. I want it to be a really good, well-received movie, just for hey, I'm a DC fan, I want a new universe to do well, I want it to be a good movie. We're gonna have to wait and see there. But even if I don't think the writing of the movie's good, I want to love David Corenswet's Superman. He could be the highlight for me, even if I don't like the plot here, there, or there. But let's now move on to the second and last topic of this video, and that is Clayface, because the Hollywood Reporter gave us some additional details. Of course, the BobaCast somewhat struck again after my news roundup talking about one of the stories in it was Clayface. These details, some of them surprised me. So let's read this newsletter out. So DC Studios has been looking for a Clayface director since late last year. The company was even eyeing J.A. Bayona over the Christmas break. The trail went cold after that, but on Thursday, in this case, not so distinguished competition mentioned that Jeff Wadlow and James Watkins are in the mix for the gig. Well, our sources say that Wadlow is not in the mix, never was, and never will be. Watkins hasn't met with DC's head honchos yet, but is expected to. This one is still up for grabs. So that's interesting. You know me, I out of the two of them, I would have wanted James Watkins anyway. Recently watched Speak No Evil and felt like he would be best suited to Clayface. So apparently that's the legit side of it, and he's still yet to meet. The company has a movie production hub in England where it shot Superman and is shooting Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Clayface, however, isn't eyed to shoot there, although it could, say if DC hires a British director. The feature, and this is arguably the most interesting thing to me, and we're about to dive into this. The feature is a modest $40 million budget, right? And the sources say that the project is looking to set up shop in a variety of locations, Vancouver, Toronto, New Jersey, or Atlanta among them, to which we say fiddlesticks. Clayface, you see, is a Hollywood horror story, according to our sources. That's interesting, just, interjecting here with how James Gunn, when he announced the Clayface movie being greenlit, he used the front cover of Clayface One Bad Day, where Clayface goes off to Los Angeles, and by the end of the comic book, gets brought back, or kind of rather sucked up by Batman, because he went on a murdering spree. But this is what I mean, there would be differences. Using the most popular incarnation of the villain, a B-movie actor who injects himself with a substance to keep himself relevant, only to find out that he can reshape his face and form, becoming a walking piece of clay. A lot of people are like, oh, so just the substance then, as if Clayface would be copying that when Clayface has been around for God knows how many decades before Substance. So if anything, Substance was based on Clayface, but I do get the similarities. Why should a Hollywood story be shot anywhere but in LA? Why fake LA in Atlanta? I do get what they're saying there, because if this is truly about, the way they could adapt it is such that rather than One Bad Day Clayface with him going to LA, it could be that before Basil Karlo goes to Gotham, he could be in LA. I don't know why he would end up in Gotham. In this, again, adaptations don't copy and paste, but we know Clayface is quite associated with Gotham. It's Batman villain. Not saying Batman's going to be in this, despite having entertained that before, but at the end of the One Bad Day comic book, Batman does say, bro, 9 people in one day. Like, what are you doing? I'm taking you in. I'm taking it. It really is kind of like that, as you're seeing on screen right now. We're gonna have to wait and see. We're really gonna have to wait and see. But it is an origin. Plus, we've heard rumors, and I'm sorry, I keep interjecting here, that he wouldn't even be portrayed as like a villain, which is why some people were questioning why I said Clayface wouldn't be terrorizing Gotham in the movie. Well, the reason why is because, as you're seeing on screen right now over here, Clayface is rumored to be a horror thriller tragedy with the lead protagonist not expected to be portrayed as the notorious villain he's known as in the Batman canon. Now, I did say, despite, that being the description, a rough description we've got, it doesn't mean that Clayface is going to be heroic or be this protagonist. It's going to be like a creepy-ass body horror decline into what have I become, and, he may inadvertently or accidentally blob out on someone and absorb them and kill them that way, and it horrifies him, and he might not be as trolly, okay, I'm going to take over Gotham, or like in One Bad Day, go to LA and actually murder people, and just out of desperation for wanting to be the central figure, the lead, in the that kind of thing. I don't think they're going to go with that, but it's not going to be without, I don't think they're going to make him this, incredibly innocent man. I mean, he's hardly super innocent in Creature Commandos. So what fascinated me most is that the feature is apparently rumored to be a modest $40 million budget. That is even cheaper than Joker, the first Joker. Now, believe it or not, this makes me incredibly interested. Dare I say, even kind of excited. Now, I know this comes with worries and concerns because it's like 40 million. Okay, let me put out what I'm excited for. 40 million forces this DCU canonical Clayface story to get creative. They're going to have to get creative, and, you know, that could be amazing. And they could make a lot of profit off of it if it does well. Like, look at Joker, had like a $60-something million budget, did over $1 billion. I'm not saying Clayface is going to do that at all. I'm really not. But they still made a really artful film for $60+ million with Joker, right? A lot of people enjoyed that first movie. $40 million really grinds you down to the nuts and bolts of it. And hey, how can we make this good? Look at Godzilla -1. Really small budget, did really well despite the effects that they achieved in that. Do you see what I mean? It really yields good results. And often when you put up to $400 million into a movie like Dial of Destiny, you know, Indiana Jones or the Flash movie with a huge budget, more doesn't equal more profit and more, you know, reception, good critical reception. Neither does less, by the way, but you see what I'm saying. But at the same time, the concerns are like $40 million. How are you going to do a CGI, you would have thought, Clayface movie? You know, because this is DCU Clayface, his Clayface in the DCU. You're seeing him on screen right now. And you're telling me you got $40 million? Well, believe it or not, the concerns there is actually what is making me excited. But the reason why it makes me excited, in addition to what they said about how Jeff Goldblum, you know, the Fly movie, where that was very practical when he descended into the Fly in a very body horror, disgusting kind of scary way, they can try and go as practical as they could possibly go with Clayface. And if that's the case, you might not like the sound of this. They might only show full blob mode towards the near end of the movie and save a big part of the budget of the big blob monster Clayface for that part. But up until then, you know, when he injects himself with the substance or whatever they're going to do with this origin, he might have the stretchy material of skin, stuff like that. They can use prosthetics like that. They can, like, you know, slowly but surely, you know, edge towards the look of Clayface, like the decline of the main character in the Fly movie, slowly but surely becoming more, you know, body horrifically transformed. So you see where I'm going. They can conserve budget that way, and as you get to the culmination of the events in the movie, boom, let's just drop 10 mil on this sequence here where he full-on blobs out. I don't know. That's like a rough kind of vision I have for a way they can do it. They don't have to go full on, but a decline throughout the movie, his transition into Clayface, and then, you know, achieve that still CGI accurate Clayface by the end, maybe with some practical elements as well. That'd be cool, but I don't know how you do a proper big blob monster Clayface practically like that. We're gonna have to wait and see. They did do interesting stuff for Smile. I'm sure some of you have seen the behind the scenes for that, so maybe they can use some practical reference points like that. But ultimately, on the bottom line here, I love how it is a $40 million budget. LA is interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that. I might make a whole separate video for how they could do this version of Clayface One Bad Day set in LA, but also be a thriller, you know, tragedy horror movie. Because the One Bad Day Clayface really isn't so, oh, this is so tragic, look what happened to the man who just wants to go around and murder people, like, you know, I don't know about that. They're going a bit of a different route about this, and, you know, it also makes me question, will Batman even minutely appear at the very, very end? Never say never. Like, that's still not entirely off the table here. But I could ramble about this forever, but I'm looking forward to kind of doing a separate breakdown, maybe expanding on this in the DCU discussion series. But I'm going to end this video there. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you showed me by just hitting the like button. Consider subscribing for more videos just like this. But that is everything. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.